Hey, welcome to a new video. One of the lesser-known but striking innovations from the final phase of World War II was the so-called Zielgerät 1229, nicknamed Vampire. This was the world's first portable infrared night vision system designed for infantry use. Developed in 1944 and 1945, it allowed soldiers to see in the dark, theoretically offering a tactical advantage during nighttime operations. The system was mounted on a standard rifle of the time, along with an infrared spotlight that emitted invisible light. The operator also carried a 31 pounds or 14 kilogram backpack battery to power the system. Altogether, it turned the user into an early version of a modern night patrol soldier, equipped with technology far ahead of its time. While infrared viewing itself wasn't new, the Germans were the first to deploy it in this form on the battlefield, although its use was limited. It was mainly tested by special units on the Eastern Front, who reported advantages during night reconnaissance in forests and urban areas. Still, the system's heavy weight, limited range of around 656 feet, or 200 meters, and very late deployment meant it had little strategic impact. After the war, the discovery of this device spurred accelerated research in countries like the United States and the Soviet Union.
Are you new to this channel? Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And before we start, also like the video.
Uhrenverein, or the Uranium Club, was Nazi Germany's secret attempt to develop nuclear energy and potentially a powerful weapon during World War II. The project began in April 1939, shortly after German scientists Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann discovered nuclear fission and initially showed promise. However, it quickly ran into problems. Unlike the well-coordinated Manhattan Project in the United States, the German nuclear program suffered from a lack of central leadership, insufficient funding, and vague military objectives. Additional delays were caused by internal rivalries and distrust of certain scientific theories, especially those associated with Einstein. One of the most fascinating remnants of this project is the so-called Haigerloch reactor. Built beneath a church in the town of Haigerloch in southwest Germany. Constructed in 1944 and 1945, it consisted of uranium cubes suspended in heavy water in an attempt to initiate a controlled chain reaction. The experiment ultimately failed due to a lack of sufficient uranium and an ineffective setup. In April 1945, American troops discovered the reactor during a covert mission, dismantled the installation, and seized the materials. Later analysis revealed that the German program was still far from achieving nuclear weapons technology. In the war's final stages, German engineers under Nazi command worked on bold and experimental technologies. One such project was the Windkanone, also known as the Luftkanone. Developed under Luftwaffe engineer Johannes Schmidt, this massive air cannon was designed to disable targets using nothing but air. No bullets, no explosions, just a powerful burst of air at high speed. The goal was to build a cannon that could blow a strong air blast across a battlefield to knock people off balance and disrupt light structures or troop formations. The weapon featured a 23 feet or 7 meter long barrel mounted on a train platform, powered by air tanks capable of generating wind speeds of up to 1,148 feet or 350 meters per second. Tests conducted near Prague in 1943 measured noticeable wind pressure, but its limitations quickly became clear. The range was modest, the recoil was intense, and the whole system was large and noisy. After the war, the prototype was discovered and confiscated by Allied forces. It was ultimately decommissioned, possibly to discourage further development of similar but more powerful systems. Designed by Austrian engineer Alois Sack, the AS-6 was an experimental fighter aircraft with a circular annular wing, an unusual design intended to improve lift and agility. This flying pancake had a round wing structure surrounding a conventional fuselage and tail. The idea was that this unique shape would result in superior performance at low speeds, allowing the aircraft to make tighter turns than standard fighters. The AS-6 used a radial piston engine and was built largely from wood due to wartime shortages of metal. By the time test flights began, the Luftwaffe was already dealing with fuel shortages and a growing lack of experienced pilots, leaving little room for risky experimentation. After only a few test flights, the project was abandoned. Still, the design remains fascinating. It later inspired concepts like flying disc shapes and VTOL vertical takeoff and landing prototypes. The AS-6 stands out as a rare example of bold aeronautical innovation during a desperate time, even if it proved too impractical for mass deployment. In the final stretch of the war, Nazi Germany sought compact defenses against relentless Allied air raids. One notable example was the Fliegerfaust, or Air Fist, a portable rocket launcher that allowed individual soldiers to target low-flying aircraft. The concept was revolutionary, infantry providing their own anti-aircraft fire. Developed in 1944 by Hugo Schneider AG, the Fliegerfaust featured 9 barrels, each capable of launching a 20mm rocket. When fired in rapid succession, the rockets created a spread of air fire designed to hit reconnaissance planes and light bombers. Only 80 to 100 units were produced. Although it saw limited action, the idea was visionary. It previewed a future in which a single soldier could pose a threat to aircraft. The Fliegerfaust is often cited as a precursor to modern man-portable air defense systems like the Stinger missile, and it went on to influence military defense technology around the world. The Mistral program was a secret aviation project by the Luftwaffe involving the development of unique composite aircraft. These aircraft were essentially giant flying bombs. The name Mistral, meaning mistletoe, a parasitic plant, symbolized the upper fighter aircraft mounted atop a modified bomber. The pilot would fly the combined aircraft toward the target, then release the unmanned lower part, which continued on its own toward the objective. The most common variant featured a Focke-Wulf FW-190, mounted on a repurposed Junkers Ju-88, whose nose had been replaced with a shaped explosive warhead. The system was intended to strike heavily fortified targets, such as shipyards, bridges, or military facilities. After releasing the weapon, the pilot would return safely to base. The program began in 1943, as Germany searched for alternative methods to attack strategic objectives. Around 250 Mistral combinations were built, but only a few achieved measurable results. Some inflicted damage on infrastructure in France, but not enough to influence the war's outcome. After the war, other countries studied the technology, but the concept was ultimately abandoned. Ferngelenkte Fliegerrakete was a groundbreaking technological development, decades ahead of its time. Initiated in 1942, the project aimed to create a vertically launched interception missile inspired by the V-2 rocket design. At roughly 25 feet or 7.5 meters tall and weighing nearly 8,000 pounds or 3,600 kilograms, it used a liquid-fueled rocket engine capable of reaching speeds up to 1,678 miles per hour, 2,700 kilometers per hour, with a range of about 31 miles or 50 kilometers and an altitude ceiling of 31 miles or 18 kilometers. It was theoretically able to engage high-altitude targets, such as heavy bombers. Unlike the ballistic V-2, the Wasserfall was remotely controlled via radar guidance and manual operation, a primitive precursor to modern precision systems. Its warhead used a proximity fuse, allowing it to disrupt targets without a direct hit. Several test flights were conducted with mixed results, but it never reached mass deployment. After the war, both the United States and the Soviet Union studied the missile's design in detail. Its propulsion and guidance concepts influenced later systems like the Nike Ajax and the SA-2. However, the Wasserfall itself was never further developed or produced. Perched atop a cliff between Omaha and Gold Beach in Normandy stood one of the best preserved and most formidable fortifications of the Atlantic Wall, the Longues-sur-Mer Battery. Completed in early 1944 and manned by the German Navy, its main purpose was to keep the approaching Allied fleet at bay before it could reach shore. The complex featured 4 6-inch or 15-centimeter naval guns, each housed in massive concrete bunkers with a firing range of up to 12.4 miles or 20 kilometers. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, the battery opened fire on ships near Omaha and Gold Beach. The Allies quickly retaliated with targeted air and naval strikes. Despite its robust construction, the battery was rendered inoperative by that same afternoon. The command center was destroyed, and over 180 German soldiers were captured by British troops. Thus ended this multi-million Reichsmark investment in coastal defense. Today, the site remains largely intact and open to visitors, a silent witness to a decisive moment in World War II history. The Flammenwerfer 35, developed in 1935, was Nazi Germany's first portable flamethrower and quickly became one of the Wehrmacht's most distinctive weapons. Though based on earlier designs from World War I, this model offered greater mobility and practical battlefield use. It worked by expelling a mixture of gasoline and tar through a handheld nozzle, ignited by a flame source. The fuel was stored in 2 tanks worn on the operator's back, with a total filled weight of around 80 pounds or 36 kilograms. Its effective range was about 82 feet or 25 meters, making it especially useful for clearing fortified positions like bunkers or buildings. The weapon was first deployed in Poland, 1939, and France, 1940, and it became a standard tool for specialized units. In urban combat, it proved particularly effective at neutralizing enemy strongholds. After the war, such weapons came under increasing criticism due to their intensity and devastating impact. While not officially banned, flamethrowers gradually fell out of favor and were phased out by many modern militaries, including Germany's. For years, rumors have circulated about mysterious Nazi-era experiments in both technology and biology. While flying sharks and killer robots from movies like Sky Sharks are pure fiction, there are hints that real-life concepts may have inspired such tales. In the 2020 German B-movie Sky Sharks, Dr. Klaus Richter revives a secret project involving genetically modified sharks piloting aircraft. While entirely fictional, theories do exist about Nazi-built robots. No confirmed evidence, but the idea isn't completely outlandish. In theory, the building blocks for robotics were already available at the time: electric motors, remote control systems, and experimental sensor tech like infrared, radar, and sonar. Combine that with a team of brilliant engineers with no ethical boundaries, and you have the ingredients for something far ahead of its time. Perhaps it was a clunky metallic monster powered by rumbling engines and guided by primitive sensors. Maybe it could crawl, aim, or even identify targets independently. No emotions, no conscience, just following its programming. Did it actually work? Probably not, but the mystery only deepens because of that, and who knows? Maybe somewhere in a forgotten bunker, a rusty prototype still lies waiting to be rediscovered. The Volkswagen Schwimmwagen, also known as the Type 166, was an innovative amphibious vehicle widely used by the German army during World War II. Designed by the famous automotive engineer Ferdinand Porsche, the Schwimmwagen was based on the Volkswagen Beetle chassis, making it versatile and practical for military operations. It was a lightweight four-wheel drive vehicle that could travel both on land and through water. Thanks to its unique hull design, the vehicle could float and propel itself in water, making it one of the most effective amphibious vehicles of its time. With over 15,000 units produced, it remains the most mass-produced amphibious vehicle in the world. Some Schwimmwagens were deployed on the Eastern Front, helping soldiers cross rivers and muddy terrain. Its compact size and surprising maneuverability also made it ideal for reconnaissance missions in difficult terrain. After the war, the Schwimmwagen remained popular due to its unique design and capabilities. British troops, who seized the Volkswagen factory in 1945, reportedly even used the vehicle recreationally.
The V3 cannon, also known as the London gun, was a super cannon developed by the Nazis during World War II. This thing wasn't just any ordinary cannon, it was enormous, and the idea was to use it as a mega long-range shooter. Imagine a gigantic cannon capable of firing projectiles at high speeds over vast distances. The V3 cannon was intended to bombard London from 2 large bunkers in the northern France. It was a frightening idea, and the intention was to terrify the city's population. It was developed by a clever German engineer named August Conders, who presented his idea to the Minister of War Production. Hitler was immediately enthusiastic and pumped a lot of money into the project. Building this cannon involved a lot of digging and forced labors in a massive underground bunker in northern France. But ultimately, before the cannon could hit London, the launch facilities were destroyed by Allied bombing raids. The V3 cannon was never used as intended. However, 2 similar cannons were used to bombard Luxembourg from December 1944 to February 1945.
The Junkers. Ju 390 was one of Nazi Germany's most ambitious aviation projects. This massive aircraft was designed to reach targets as far as the American East Coast, across the Atlantic Ocean. In the early 1940s, aircraft manufacturer Junkers developed this 6-engine giant as an extended version of the Ju 290. Originally intended for maritime reconnaissance and transport, the Ju 390 became most famous for its rumored connection to the mysterious America Bomber program. With a wingspan of nearly 164 feet, or 50 meters, and a theoretical range of over 6,000 miles, or 9,700 kilometers, it could have potentially reached New York. 2 prototypes were built, and at least one successfully flew in 1943. It was tested for long-range missions, aerial reconnaissance, and cargo transport. What cemented the aircraft's legendary status were post-war rumors that it had flown close to New York before returning safely to Europe. Ultimately, the project was canceled in 1944. As wartime priorities shifted, materials became scarce, and focus turned toward defensive technologies. Both prototypes were dismantled, and further development plans were shelved for good. One of the most impressive vehicles of the German war machine was the Panzerkampfwagen Tiger II, better known as the Tiger II or Königsteiger. This heavy tank symbolized both the technological ambition and logistical overreach of the Third Reich. Developed as the successor to the already feared Tiger I, it was introduced in 1944 and designed to outperform any Allied tank with sheer firepower and virtually impenetrable armor. The Tiger II combined the thick armor of the Tiger I with the sloped design of the Soviet T-34, allowing it to both deflect and absorb incoming shells. Armed with one of the most powerful tank guns of the war, the Tiger II could destroy almost any enemy tank at long range. Its front armor was up to 6 inches, or 150 millimeters thick, and sloped for maximum effectiveness. It first saw action in Normandy after D-Day and later during the Battle of the Bulge. However, the tank had major drawbacks. It was extremely heavy, fuel-hungry, and prone to mechanical issues. Repairs on the battlefield were difficult due to its complexity. Only 492 units were built, far too few to turn the tide of the war.
The Kugelpanzer is a unique and enigmatic armored vehicle from World War II. It's one of the most unusual tanks ever built, characterized by its spherical shape. It has a minimalist design on the outside, consisting of a cylindrical body in the middle where one person could fit. 2 hemispherical wheels are placed on both sides of the central part and serve as its means of propulsion. The vehicle has thin armor plating of approximately 5 millimeters, although the exact composition of the armor is unknown. However, why this vehicle was built and what its purpose was remains a subject of debate. The most common theory is that it was likely used as an experimental reconnaissance vehicle, though its low speed and limited visibility raise questions about the effectiveness of that role. There's also one example of this vehicle that exists today. It's displayed at the Kubinka Tank Museum in Moscow, Russia, where it's listed as exhibition number 37. It's speculated that this vehicle was captured by the Red Army. Access and photography inside this vehicle is strictly prohibited, making it difficult to verify the internal layout and components of the vehicle.
The Haftolladung, or magnetic hollow charge, was a German invention that allowed soldiers to manually attach an explosive device to enemy vehicles to pierce their armor. Introduced in 1942, the device weighed about 6.6 pounds or 3 kilograms and featured 3 powerful magnets that firmly stuck it to the metal surfaces of tanks or other armored vehicles. After attachment, the user pulled a fuse cord, triggering a short 5 to 10 second delay to allow time to retreat to safety. The shaped charge focused its explosive force into a narrow jet, capable of penetrating up to 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters of armor, enough to disable nearly any vehicle of the time. While technically impressive, its use required close physical contact with enemy targets, making deployment risky and difficult in combat. After the war, this type of weapon faded into obscurity, largely due to evolving standards around safety and tactical practicality. The Haftolladung remains a stark example of how far inventors went to find technological solutions in desperate times. The Leichter Panzerspeiwagen played an important role in Germany's early war strategy. These fast and agile vehicles were designed to scout enemy positions and relay crucial information to the front lines. Built by companies such as Boesing-Nag and Horch, they were deployed from the forests of Poland to the deserts of North Africa and the vast plains of the Eastern Front. The SDKFZ-222, equipped with a 0.8-inch or 20mm cannon and open turret, was particularly effective against infantry and light vehicles. The SDKFZ-223 added a large antenna and advanced radio equipment for long-range communication. Though lightly armored and vulnerable to anti-tank weapons, these vehicles excelled in speed, flexibility, and tactical value. Their reconnaissance work was so valuable that they were often accompanied by infantry or heavier armored support to compensate for their vulnerabilities. They didn't win battles directly, but they made victories possible. Long before Japan's Shinkansen or Germany's Transrapid, German engineer Hermann Kemper proposed a train that would float above its tracks using magnetic force. In the 1930s, his concept gained serious interest under the Third Reich's broader technological ambitions, not as a military project, but as a symbol of progress and modern vision. In 1934, Kemper patented a system that used electromagnetic repulsion. By activating coils along a track with alternating current, the train could levitate and move without touching the rails. The Ministry of Aviation funded a working prototype, which was tested in rural Germany in the late 1930s. Though it didn't achieve the speeds or efficiency of today's maglev trains, it proved that magnetic levitation was technically feasible, decades ahead of its time. Focus eventually shifted to other technologies, and Kemper's project stalled. Still, his invention remained a source of inspiration, and decades later, countries like Japan and Germany would revive and refine the concept into modern high-speed systems. The bouncing bomb was invented by the British engineer Barnes Wallis. He conceived the idea by experimenting with bouncing marbles over a tank in his backyard. The purpose of the bouncing bomb was to attack and destroy German dams, particularly those in the Ruhr Valley, which were essential to German industry and infrastructure. The bomb was designed to skip across the water and explode underwater, creating massive floods and damage to water supplies and hydroelectric plants. It was first used in Operation Chastis by the Royal Air Force on May 16th to 17th in 1943. The mission was carried out by the 617th Squadron, also known as the Dam Busters. The squadron used specially built cylindrical bombs, codenamed Upkeep, which were dropped from a low altitude and high speed. The bombs were designed to skip across the water and sink against the dam wall, and then explode underwater, causing the dam to breach and flood the surrounding area. This attack was seen as a severe blow to the German war machine, and boosted morale among Allied forces. The Horten H-18 was a bold yet unfinished project from the final years of the war. Designed by the innovative Horten brothers, it was a jet-powered aircraft with an advanced flying wing design, radically ahead of its time. A flying wing aircraft lacks a traditional fuselage and tail. Everything is integrated into one broad aerodynamic surface. This design reduces drag, improves efficiency, and makes the aircraft harder to detect using conventional radar. The Hortens had already built successful test aircraft like the Ho-229, an early forerunner of modern stealth technology. The H.18 was envisioned with 6 jet engines embedded in the wings, capable of flying over 621 miles per hour, or 1,000 kilometers per hour with a range of more than 4,350 miles or 7,000 kilometers. It was intended to be a long-range strategic bomber. After the war, the design plans and remaining components fell into Allied hands. The aircraft's innovative shape and stealth potential went on to inspire later projects in both the US and the Soviet Union, the most famous example being the American B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. The Focke-Wulf Triebflugel is without a doubt one of Nazi Germany's most bizarre and futuristic aviation projects. Designed in 1944 during the desperate final phase of the war, this vertical takeoff and landing aircraft was classified as a Wunderwaffe, or wonder weapon, intended to turn the tide of the conflict. Instead of fixed wings, the Triebflugel had 3 enormous rotor wings rotating around the fuselage, with ramjet engines mounted on their tips. This rotation generated both lift and thrust, allowing the aircraft to take off vertically, ideal at a time when airfields were constantly under attack. Once airborne, the craft would tilt horizontally to engage enemy bombers with 4 planned 1.2-inch or 30mm cannons. However, the design remained purely theoretical. No prototype was ever built or tested. The Triebflugel stayed a paper concept, a bizarre blend of visionary engineering and desperate fantasy. The Sun Gun, also known as the Helio Beam, is a theoretical orbital weapon proposed during World War II. The Sun Gun is a concept where a concave mirror mounted on a satellite is used to focus sunlight onto a small area of the Earth's surface, potentially causing harmful effects due to intense heat. This idea was developed by the German physicist Hermann Oberth in 1929. He envisioned a space station located at approximately 5,095 miles above the Earth, equipped with a large reflector, which was made of metallic sodium. The proposed reflector, with an area of 3.5 square miles, would be capable of concentrating sunlight to generate enough heat to boil an ocean or ignite a city. During World War II, a group of German scientists expanded Oberth's concept of the sun gun at the German artillery, proving ground in Hillsborough. The Nazis also claimed that if given 50 to 100 years, they could have built the mass destruction weapon. The Kranich, or crane, was an early and innovative system that used sound to trigger automatic mechanisms. Instead of using contact or time detonators, this device responded to specific sound frequencies, such as the hum of aircraft engines or the rhythm of ship propellers. An integrated microphone acted as a sensor, connected to a mechanical or electronic activation circuit. When a recognizable sound pattern was detected, like an approaching plane or ship, the system sent a signal to trigger a response. This allowed precise timing for activation, without requiring direct contact. The technology was mainly used in systems designed to detect and disrupt enemy vessels, making operations more efficient and targeted. Though primarily experimental, the Kranich laid important groundwork for future sound-activated and acoustic detection technologies. Even today, this principle is used in civilian applications, such as sonar and underwater exploration. The FA-223 Drache was one of Nazi Germany's most futuristic aviation projects, and is often regarded as the world's first truly functional transport helicopter. Developed by Futuristic starting in 1940, the aircraft was years ahead of its time in an era when helicopters were barely operational. With twin rotors mounted on either side of the fuselage, the Drache could take off and land vertically, allowing it to transport cargo, wounded personnel, and even vehicles over difficult terrain without the need for a runway. Its versatility made it useful for mountain rescues, transport missions, and reconnaissance, especially in areas inaccessible to conventional aircraft. However, production remained extremely limited. Allied bombings of the factories resulted in only 20 units being built. Despite the small number, the Drache set the standard for future helicopter developments worldwide. With a top speed of about 112 miles per hour or 180 kilometers per hour and a range of 435 miles or 700 kilometers, it was revolutionary for its time. Had Nazi Germany had more time to develop this technology on a larger scale, it could have radically altered the way war was fought.
The Krummeloff, which means curved barrel in English, was a unique addition developed by Germany for one of its rifles. Let's further explore the incredible invention. The Krummeloff was designed as a barrel attachment with a curved shape, allowing soldiers to shoot around corners from a safe position without exposing themselves to return fire. It included a periscope sight and a mirror to enable the shooter to maintain a standard grip and cheek while aiming. It was primarily intended for use at close range, such as in urban combat or trench warfare, where soldiers needed to hit targets without direct line of sight. Several variants of this were produced, with several degrees of curvature, including a 30-degree, 45-degree, 60-degree, and even 90-degree. However, the 30-degree variant was the only one produced in significant numbers. The Krummeloff is often seen as an example of Germany's late war obsession with developing unconventional and impractical weapons. Although the concept of shooting around corners was intriguing, the limitations and technical difficulties prevented it from becoming an effective and widely used weapon.
The Lippisch P-13A was a visionary yet never built experimental interceptor aircraft. It was designed by German aerospace engineer Alexander Lippisch, known as the father of the delta wing concept. In 1944, Lippisch envisioned a lightweight aircraft that combined simplicity with high speed, maneuverability, and an alternative power source. He developed a ramjet engine that ran on powdered coal, intended as a solution to the shortage of conventional liquid fuels. The aircraft featured a wide, triangular delta wing with sharp angles and a swept-back profile for improved aerodynamics, stability, and high-speed performance. The cockpit was located at the front, followed by the wing structure and the combustion chamber, where crushed coal would be injected and ignited. The idea was bold and unique, a solid fuel propulsion system at a time when liquid fuels were increasingly scarce. Although the engineering challenges were significant and the technology had clear limitations, the concept was tested through scale models and wind tunnel experiments. While the project was eventually abandoned, the P-13A remains one of the most remarkable designs of its time, a testament to ingenuity during an age of extreme scarcity. The Sturmtiger was one of Nazi Germany's most terrifying and unusual armored vehicles, specifically designed to destroy heavily fortified targets. Instead of engaging enemy tanks, it was intended to wipe out bunkers, fortifications, and entire city blocks with a single devastating shot. Built on the chassis of the infamous Tiger I, the Sturmtiger featured a massive superstructure instead of the standard turret, housing a 15 inches or 38 centimeter rocket mortar originally developed for the Navy. The result was a mobile cannon capable of reducing entire buildings to rubble with a single projectile. Developed after the brutal street fighting in Stalingrad, the Sturmtiger was equipped with the RW-61 rocket mortar, firing shells weighing over 770 pounds or 350 kilograms, both physically and psychologically devastating. The vehicle weighed more than 65 tons, and to manage the gun's enormous recoil, it was fitted with a complex system of dampers and venting ports. Sturmtigers were deployed during the Warsaw Uprising, the Battle of the Bulge, and the defense of the Rhineland, serving as mobile fortresses that could delay enemy breakthroughs or destroy strategic targets. The Panzerfaust was a revolutionary single-use anti-tank weapon designed to give ordinary soldiers the ability to fight back against enemy armored vehicles. Introduced in 1943, it offered a simple and affordable solution to threats like the Soviet T-34 and American Sherman tanks. The weapon consisted of a metal tube about 3 feet 3 inches or 1 meter long, fitted with a specially shaped warhead designed to concentrate explosive force on a single point. Since the launcher was discarded after use, it was ideal for rapid mass production and easy transport. Aiming was done with simple sights, and the projectile was launched without recoil. The Panzerfaust saw extensive use in the later years of the war, and was distributed to regular troops, paratroopers, and local defense units. After the war, its design inspired modern weapons, such as the Soviet RPG-2 and RPG-7, which would go on to become globally influential for decades. The Panzerzug, or German armored train, was one of the most imposing and unconventional weapons in the Nazi arsenal. These steel behemoths combined the firepower of armored vehicles with the mobility of the railroad, serving as rolling fortresses armored, and capable of transporting troops and tanks. Based on 19th century ideas, these trains were revived by Hitler's war machine, especially on the vast and unstable Eastern Front, where railways were crucial for supply lines. Panzerzüge were created by reinforcing existing locomotives and rail cars with thick steel plating to withstand firearms, explosives, and even anti-tank weapons. They were equipped with anti-aircraft guns, machine guns, tank turrets, and heavy artillery, often mounted on rotating platforms. Some trains featured command cars, reconnaissance cars, or flak wagons functioning as fully mobile battle formations. Others carried tanks or infantry ready to be deployed at strategic points. Especially in Poland, the Balkans, and the Soviet Union, they played a major role in suppressing resistance and protecting vital rail connections. Beyond their combat power, they had enormous psychological impact, a thundering symbol of Nazi dominance on the rails.
The Hannibal Project has become a source of many myths and fictional stories, often associated with secret Nazi bases on the dark side of the moon, or encounters with extraterrestrial beings. There's various theories claiming that this project revolved around the development and testing of advanced tech, including anti-gravity engines and flying saucers. It's believed that if the Germans had completed these weapons in time, they could have had a significant impact on the outcome of the war. Some theories suggest that the project was a flying saucer secured by the Americans during Operation High Jump in 1947. It may have been linked to the UFO incident in Roswell, New Mexico. The Hannibal Project also garnered attention in popular culture, including books, model kits, video games, and movies. It's also appeared in video games, such as X-Plane 11 and Warplane's World War II dogfight.
The Schienenzeppelin was a striking experimental rail vehicle developed in the early 1930s by engineer Franz Krukenberg. Unlike traditional trains, this futuristic prototype used a massive airplane engine with a rear-mounted propeller. The frame was largely made of lightweight aluminum and shaped for maximum aerodynamic efficiency. On June 21, 1931, the Schienenzeppelin reached a speed of 143 miles per hour, or 230 kilometers per hour between Hamburg and Berlin, a rail speed record that stood for decades. Although revolutionary in design, it was never adopted on a wide scale. Concerns over safety, noise, and practicality led to a preference for electric and diesel trains. Still, the project remains a visionary milestone in railway history and continues to inspire train enthusiasts and engineers around the world. R. Reichenberg was Nazi Germany's grim response to desperation, a manned version of the notorious Vi-1 flying bomb, designed for extremely high-risk one-way missions. Based on the Fiesler Fi-103, the Reichenberg retained its signature form, a stubby pulse-jet-powered aircraft with short wings and an explosive warhead in the nose. The Argus AS-014 pulse-jet produced the same piercing howl that made the V weapons infamous. Under the leadership of Otto Skorzeny, Hitler's favorite commando, a special unit was trained, consisting of volunteers from the Luftwaffe and Hitler Youth for these perilous missions. Although officially pilots were supposed to bail out in time, the chances of survival were minimal. The Reichenberg was unstable and extremely difficult to control safely. Test flights with glider models often failed, and even successful landings were highly dangerous. The training process itself was so hazardous that several test pilots died during preparation. As the war progressed and Allied air superiority grew, the project was eventually canceled entirely. Although dozens of pilots were trained, the aircraft was never deployed in combat. The SS Wurfkörper. 361 was a late-war rocket system improvised by units of the Waffen-SS. It made use of repurposed Soviet BM-13 Katyusha rocket tubes, retrofitted with German warheads and propulsion systems. The goal was to create a functional form of rocket artillery using minimal resources. These rockets were launched from simple rails or mounted on trucks and had a range of approximately 3.7 miles or 6 kilometers. Although accuracy and performance were limited, the project illustrates how the SS began developing its own weapons, independent of the regular army. Historians believe the system was tested only on a small scale, as there are no detailed reports on its deployment or production. Some sources suggest it was more of a political vanity project than a practical military innovation. Eventually, the SS Wurfkörper 361 faded quietly into obscurity after the war. The Goliath tracked mine looked like a toy tank, but was actually a terrifying weapon. These small, remotely controlled tracked vehicles were designed to deliver explosives beneath enemy targets and then detonate from a safe distance. Developed by Borgward in the early 1940s, the Goliath carried 132 to 220 pounds, or 60 to 100 kilograms of explosives. Early models used electric motors, but later versions were fitted with gasoline engines for improved reliability. A wired remote control gave the operator full command over steering and detonation. In theory, it was ideal for urban combat and fortified positions. Drive the Goliath beneath a tank or into a bunker and blow it up without risking soldiers' lives. Some models were armored, but this provided little protection against machine gun or artillery fire. The cable connecting the Goliath to its operator was also vulnerable, often becoming the system's weak point in battle. They were deployed in Italy, on the Eastern Front, and during D-Day, but their slow speed, vulnerability, and high cost limited their success. Nevertheless, over 7,000 were produced, a very early precursor to modern military drones.
The Suborbital was a design for a rocket-powered suborbital bomb aircraft created by Eugen Songer and Irene Brett in the late 1930s for the Nazi Germany. It was conceived as part of a project which aimed to develop long-range bombers capable of reaching the United States from Europe. It was intended to be a suborbital aircraft, capable of flying at high altitudes at extreme speeds, and it would be powered by a rocket engine. The plan was to launch the aircraft from a 2-mile-long monorail track, accelerated by a rocket-powered sled. Once the guide rail ended, the main rocket engine would ignite, propelling the aircraft to its maximum velocity. The aircraft was intended to glide back to Earth after reaching peak altitude, enabling reuse and cost savings. Despite the design, a physical prototype was never built. The project remained largely on paper, and the end of World War II brought an end to the further development. Believe it or not, the design and concepts contributed to the development of later spaceplanes. For example, the regeneratively cooled rocket engine became a lasting feature in the design of future rocket engines.
The America Bomber project was Nazi Germany's ambitious effort to develop a long-range bomber capable of reaching targets in the United States. The plan emerged in 1942 from the desire to challenge Allied technological dominance and symbolically strike cities like New York. The Luftwaffe invited prominent aircraft manufacturers, including Messerschmitt, Junkers, Focke-Wulf, and Horten, to submit designs for a bomber with a range of 7,456 miles or 12,000 kilometers. Notable proposals included Messerschmitt Me 264, the most advanced design, though plagued by technical flaws and engine issues. Junkers Ju 390, a 6-engine aircraft with extended range. Rumors claim it may have flown near the US East Coast, though evidence is lacking. Horten H-18, a futuristic flying wing with possible radar stealth capabilities, though it never advanced beyond concept phase. Focke-Wulf Ta 400, a large bomber similar to the American B-29, which never reached production. The project was eventually abandoned due to technical hurdles, shifting priorities, and Germany's deteriorating war position. Although no America bomber ever flew a combat mission, several of its designs later inspired breakthroughs in post-war aviation technology. Which Nazi technology would you want to try out? Let us know in the comments. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos we've made, click one on the screen or take a look at the channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.